do. Okay.
Canto 3, Chapter 4, Text 10. Vidura approaches Maitreya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, text 10.
Excuse me.
Maitreya Muni was greatly attached to him, the Lord, and he was listening in a pleasing attitude, with his shoulder lowered, with a smile and a particular glance upon me. Having allowed me to rest, the Lord spoke as follows. Purport. Although both Uddhav and Maitreya were great souls, the Lord's attention was more on Uddhav because he was a spotlessly pure devotee. A Jnana Bhakta, or one whose devotion is mixed with the monistic viewpoint, is not a pure devotee. Although Maitreya was a devotee, his devotion was mixed. The Lord reciprocates with his devotees on the basis of transcendental love and not on the basis of philosophical knowledge or fruitive activities. In the transcendental loving service of the Lord, there is no place for monistic knowledge or fruitive activities. And the gopis in Vrindavan were neither highly learned scholars nor mystic yogis. They had spontaneous love for the Lord, and thus he became their heart and soul. And the gopis also became the heart and soul of the Lord. Chaitanya approved the relationship of the gopis with the Lord as supreme. Herein, the Lord's attitude towards Uddhav was more intimate than with Maitreya Muni.
Any thoughts?
Well, I guess Krishna is saying here is more inclined towards the straight or pure devotee who's just serving him, not going through the mixed jnana path.
Yeah. And also, just again, that point that Maitreya Muni is a Mishra Bhakta, and you can see he's a Jnana Bhakta. So normally the terminology would be Jnana Mishra, Mishra meaning mixed. So Jnana Mishra Bhakta. Look like a little head sticking out there. Let me turn that down a little bit. There you go. Yeah. Okay. Text 11. O Vasu, excuse me, I know from within your mind what you desired in the days of yore, when the Vasus and other demigods responsible for expanding the universal affairs performed sacrifices. You particularly desired to achieve my association. This is very difficult for others to obtain, but I award it unto you. Purport. Uddhav is one of the eternal associates of the Lord, and a plenary portion of Uddhav was one of the 8 Vasus in the days of yore. The 8 Vasus and the demigods in the upper planetary system, who are responsible for the management of the universal affairs, performed a sacrifice in the days of yore, desiring to fulfill their respective... It's buzzing next door and the phone's ringing. Hey, Krishna. At that time, an expansion of Uddhav, acting as one of the Vasus, desired to become an associate of the Lord. The Lord knew this because he is present in the heart of every living entity as Paramatma, the super-consciousness. In everyone's heart, there is the representation of the super-consciousness who gives memory to the partial consciousness of every living entity. The living entity the living entity as partial consciousness forgets incidents of his past life, but the super-consciousness reminds him how to act in terms of his past cultivation of knowledge. Bhagavad Gita confirms this fact in various ways. Yeyatama prapadyante tams tataiva bhajami aham. Bhagavad Gita 4:11. Sarvasya chaham ridisani vishto mata smirtir gyanam apohanam cha. Bhagavad Gita 15:15.
Everyone is at liberty to desire as he likes, but the desire is fulfilled by the Supreme Lord. Everyone is independent to think or desire, but the fulfillment of one's desire depends on the Supreme Will. This law is expressed as man proposes, God disposes. In the days of yore, when the demigods and vassals performed sacrifice, Uddhav, as one of the vassals, desired to enter into the association of the Lord, which is very difficult for those busy in empiric philosophical speculation or fruitive activities. Such persons have practically no information of the facts about becoming an associate of the Lord. Only the pure devotees can know, by the mercy of the Lord, that the personal association of the Lord is the highest perfection of life. The Lord assured Uddhav that he would fulfill his desire. It appears that when the Lord informed him by his indication to Uddhav, the great sage Maitreya finally became aware of the importance of entering into the association of the Lord.
Any thoughts? Anyway, I'd like to try to understand this because I'm not sure that I do. So, an expansion of Uddhav, acting as one of the Vasus, desired to become an associate of the Lord. So, the Vasus, it says here, in the days of yore, the 8 Vasus and the demigods in the upper planetary systems who are responsible for the management of the universe performed a sacrifice. So the Vasus, in one sense, are clearly older than Uddhav, yeah? At least in this perspective. But yet, it's described that an expansion of Uddhav was one of the Vasus. So from that, at least what I can deduce, is because it mentions in the first sentence, Uddhav is one of the eternal associates of the Lord. So that means that Uddhav has an eternal position in the spiritual world, and he can also expand himself. And just as many of the other eternal associates of the Lord expand themselves, we know from Chaitanya Leela, and also especially that those associates of the Lord, they have appear with the Lord in order to manifest his pastimes. So it seems that Uddhav, an expansion of Uddhav, was one of the Vasus, and he specifically desired the personal association of the Lord because he's an eternal pure devotee. So like that. And does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Text 12. O honest one, your present life is the last and the supermost, because in this term of life you have been awarded my ultimate favor. Now you can go to my transcendental abode, Vaikuntha, by leaving this universe of conditioned living entities. Your visit to me in this lonely place because of your pure and unflinching devotional service is a great boon for you. Purport. When a person is fully conversant with knowledge of the Lord as far as can be known by a perfect living entity in liberated state, he is allowed to enter into the spiritual sky where the Vaikuntha planets exist. So basically, once you become fully absorbed in understanding the Lord to the highest extent that one can in this material life, then you can go back to the Vaikuntha planets. The Lord was sitting in a lonely place, just about to disappear from the vision of the inhabitants of this universe, and Uddhav was fortunate to see him even at that time, and thus received the Lord's permission to enter Vaikuntha. The Lord is everywhere at all times, and his appearance and disappearance are merely the experience of the inhabitants of a particular universe. He is just like the sun. The sun does not appear or disappear in the sky. It is only in the experience of men that in the morning the sun rises and in the evening the sun sets. The Lord is simultaneously both in Vaikuntha and everywhere within and without Vaikuntha. So that analogy of the sun is so good because our experience of the sun, again, I think we mentioned this the other day, right? That our experience of the sun is that, it goes up and down and up and down. But actually the sun is situated in one place and we're moving around it, and the earth turning means that our experience of a stationary object is that it has movement. But it's not. So just like that, Krishna, he's fixed. But our experience is that he also comes and goes. So like that.
Text 13. O Uddhav, in the lotus millennium, in the days of yore, at the beginning of the creation, I spoke unto Brahma, who is situated on the lotus that grows out of my navel, about my transcendental glories, which the great sages described as Srimad Bhagavatam. Purport. The explanation of the Supreme Self as given to Brahma, and already explained in the second canto of this great literature, is further clarified herein. The Lord said that the concise form of Srimad Bhagavatam, as explained to Brahma, was meant to elucidate his personality. The impersonal explanation of those 4 verses in the second canto is nullified herewith. Sridhar Swami also explains in this connection that the same concise form of the Bhagavatam concerned the pastimes of Lord Krishna and was never meant for impersonal indulgence.
Any thoughts? So this purport is referring also to the 4 seed verses that we read in the 9th chapter of the 2nd canto, because that is the entire Bhagavatam in 4 verses. So it's interesting because it seems like Sridhar Maharaj is saying here, this is the original commentator Sridhar Maharaj, not the ISKCON Sridhar Maharaj, or outside of ISKCON Sridhar Maharaj. Sridhar Swami also explains in this connection that the same concise form of the Bhagavatam concerned the pastimes of Lord Krishna and was never meant for impersonal indulgence. And I think that's because some have taken that those 4 seed verses and extrapolated them in an impersonal way, when that is not the case. They're meant to be extolling the personal form, the glories of the personal form of the Lord. Text 14. Uddhav said, O Vidura, when I was thus favored at every moment by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and addressed by him with great affection, my words failed in tears, and the hairs of my body erupted. After smearing my tears, I, with folded hands, spoke like this. Translation. O my Lord. Sorry, text 15.
Yeah. Translation.
O my Lord, devotees who engage in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet have no difficulty in achieving anything within the realm of the 4 principles of religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. But, O Great One, as far as I am concerned, I have preferred only to engage in the loving service of your lotus feet. Such nice prayers by Uddhav to Krishna. Those who are associated with the Lord in Vaikuntha planets achieve all the bodily features of the Lord and appear to be the same as Lord Vishnu. Such liberation is called Sarupya Mukti, which is one of the 5 kinds of liberation. The devotees engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord never accept the Sayuja Mukti, or merging in the rays of the Lord, called the Brahma Jyoti. The devotees can achieve not only liberation, but any success in the realm of religiosity, economic development, or sense gratification, up to the standard of the demigods in the heavenly planets. But such a pure devotee as Uddhav refuses to accept all such facilities. A pure devotee wants simply to engage in the service of the Lord and does not consider his own personal benefit. That last sentence is very powerful. and defining a pure devotee, simply wants to be engaged in service and does not consider his own personal benefit. What do you think of that?
Yeah, it's true, because you think you're engaging in devotional service, but it can become sense gratification.
In what way?
Because you do what you enjoy doing, or you do what gives you pleasure. As soon as someone tells you, could you just cover this, or could you do that? You realise how unsurrendered you are, because it's not service. It's like, oh, that's not really convenient for me, or I don't want to do that. The irony is, every day we're chanting Hare Krishna and asking to be engaged in service, but when it comes, we pick and choose what we want to do.
So I guess the question is, how does that work with the principle of, being engaged according to our psychophysical nature, or being engaged according to our varna? Isn't there certain things that we would like to do better, or want to do more and prefer to do?
Yeah, and you should, because that's what's going to give you juice in spiritual life. If you're just going to clean the floor and you don't want to, you do it for 10, 15 years, you're just going to be disillusioned. But at the same time, in any relationship, whether it's spouse or parent or sibling or work, you have to do the needful as well. And it's a test of the relationship with you and God, and you and ISKCON, and you and your authority, the institution, if you can't ever do the needful.
But I guess just doing the needful can be overdone as well, yes?
Yeah, I'm not saying just doing, then that isn't going to get us anywhere. I'm saying we should be engaged in our nature, but we should be flexible when we're asked to do the needful. I'm not saying regular and all the time, but it's like someone says, oh, I love you, and they keep saying it, and then one day you've maybe asked them to do something, or kind of go out their way to do something, and they're like, oh, I don't know, actually, I don't know, I'll get back to you on that. Oh, I thought that you cared for me, and you'd always be there for me, and like that,
Okay. Next. You're reading next.
Is it?
I think so.
Alright. My Lord, even the learned sages become disturbed in their intelligence when they see that your greatness engages in fruitive work, although you are free from all desires. That you take birth, although you are unborn. That you flee out of fear of the enemy and take shelter in a fort, although you are the controller of invincible time. And that you enjoy householder life surrounded by many women, although you enjoy in yourself. Prabhupada. Pure devotees of the Lord are not very much concerned with philosophical speculation in regard to transcendental knowledge of the Lord, nor is it possible to acquire complete knowledge of the Lord. Whatever little knowledge they have about the Lord is sufficient for them, because devotees are simply satisfied in hearing and chanting about the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. This gives them all transcendental bliss, but some of the pastimes of the Lord appear contradictory, even to such pure devotees, and thus ought to have asked the Lord about some of the contradictory incidents in his pastimes. The Lord is described as having nothing to do personally, and is actually so, because even in the creation and sustenance of the material world, the Lord has nothing to do. It seems contradictory then to hear that the Lord personally lifts the Govardhan hill for the protection of his unalloyed devotees. The Lord is the Supreme Brahman, the Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead appearing like a man, but Uddhav had doubts whether he could have so many transcendental activities.
So even the pure devotee seems to sometimes have a doubt about apparently contradictory activities or incidents. There is no difference between the personality of Godhead and the impersonal Brahman. How then can the Lord have so many things to do, whereas the impersonal Brahman is stated to have nothing to do either materially or spiritually? If the Lord is ever unborn, how then is he born as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki? He is fearful even to Kala, the supreme fear, and yet the Lord is afraid of fighting Jarasandha and takes shelter in a fort? How can one who is full in himself take pleasure in the association of many women? How can he take wives and, just like a householder, take pleasure in the association of family members, children, relatives, and parents? All these apparently contradictory happenings bewilder even the greatest learned scholars, who, thus bewildered, cannot understand whether inactivity is a fact or whether his activities are only imitations. The solution is that the Lord has nothing to do with anything mundane. All his activities are transcendental. This cannot be understood by the mundane speculators. For the mundane... Oh, sorry. I think I overread my part.
Yeah. For mundane speculators, there is certainly a kind of bewilderment. But for the transcendental devotees, there is nothing astonishing in this. The Brahman conception of the absolute truth is certainly the negation of all mundane activities, but the Para-Brahman perception is full of transcendental activities. One who knows the distinctions between the conception of Brahman and the conception of Supreme Brahman is certainly the real transcendentalist. There is no bewilderment for such transcendentalists. The Lord himself also declares in the Bhagavad Gita 10.2, even the great sages and demigods can know hardly anything about my activities and transcendental potencies. The right explanation of the Lord's activity is given by Grandfather Bhishmadev as follows. Nahe yashya kahichid rajan pumam veda viditsitam yad viji nasaya yukta muyanti kavayo apihe. As Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Text 16. But the translation isn't given. However, we will pull up the translation now for those who need it.
Well, we need it too.
Well.
Oh, you know what it is? So, translation of that verse, which basically, by the way, what does Prabhupada say? The right explanation of the Lord's activities is given by Grandfather Bhishmadev in this verse. And what is the translation? O King, no one can know the plan of the Lord, Sri Krishna. Even though great philosophers inquire exhaustively, they are bewildered. So, why is that verse spoken?
Because no one can know the Lord, even Uddhav was baffled.
Yeah, well, yeah, he was baffled. Of course, Prabhupada poses all these questions, which are really good questions. If the Lord's unborn, how can he take birth? If he's fearful even to Kala, supreme fear, which is time, then how come he ran away from Jarasundar? If he's self-satisfied, how come he associates with so many women and enjoys as a householder? So all these are good questions. So the answer basically is that no one can understand ultimately the pastimes of the Lord like that. And I also appreciated this statement, one who knows the distinctions between the conception of Brahman and the conception of Supreme Brahman is certainly the real transcendentalist. So, what is the distinction between those two? Ding, 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 ding. Brahman and Supreme Brahman.
Supreme Brahman is Lord Krishna.
Oh, yeah.
Brahman is all pervading existence.
Okay, wow. I think you got it right, yes. Haribo! You must be a real transcendentalist.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we should finish there. Conclude for the day. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Just a reminder, if anyone's interested in a set of Srimad Bhagavatams, please let us know. If anyone is interested in a set of Chaitanya Charitamritas, you can see behind us, we have this beautiful picture of Lord Chaitanya. And if anyone is interested in hearing more about the transcendental pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, we have this amazing book here called Your Ever Well Wisher. So really, really inspirational book. that we're reading at the moment. So really, really gives you deep insights into what Srila Prabhupada went through in order to start the International Society for Krishna Consciousness and take up the message of Lord Chaitanya and spread it all over the world. Don't forget, next Wednesday, which this won't be Wednesday, will
Monday.
it? This is on Monday. So next Wednesday, 21st of April, is Ram Navami, Haribo. So it's the appearance day of Lord Ram. So please join in on Mayapur TV or Facebook and see the festivities live in the temple or come to the temple. Schedules on the website. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Haribo.